So I wanted to start. I'm going to speak a little bit first, and then Murtaza is going to follow afterwards. But I just wanted to start with this image, which is a drawing I did for an exhibition that just happened recently in Vienna. I guess while I'm speaking, I want you to look at this image and just think, who is carrying who? Is the duck carrying the rabbit, or is the rabbit carrying the duck? This drawing is a playful engagement with the famous duck-rabbit trick picture that so captivated the Austrian philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein was intrigued with the ambiguous nature of the duck-rabbit picture, and here is the original picture that he was writing about. Some people look and they see a rabbit. Some people look and they see a duck. And some people see a duck-rabbit. But what happens when one sees first a duck and then a rabbit, or first a rabbit and then a duck? What happens if you see it as both at the same time? For Wittgenstein, the external world cannot stay the same when we have an internal cognitive change taking place, such as this. So tonight I want to talk about the possibilities of cognitive changes, with reference to an exhibition that I was involved in at the Secession in Vienna. The Secession is one of Austria's oldest and most beautiful museums. And incidentally, it was financed with the money with Ludwig Wittgenstein's father, who was actually one of the richest men in Europe. In January this year, I was invited along with 7 other artists around the world to create a week-long salon at the Secession on the theme of utopia. And the week that I was given was the 1st to the 8th of October. The request to create an exhibition on utopia caught me a little off guard. I looked around at politics in Australia and I couldn't feel very utopian about much at all. As an interesting bounce off the last speaker, I live in Fairfield, where the Change of Our Lives was shot. And I live 5 kilometres down the road from the Villawood Detention Centre. And through the Refugee Art Project, I'd been visiting the detention centre along with Murtaza and a bunch of other people and participating in drawing workshops. And every day the news was filled with more and more draconian measures that were being taken in the name of Australia's borders. When watching the endless TV debates about refugees, I heard commenters deriding those rare voices that argued against borders as utopian. I'm sure we've all heard the argument. We need to set limits on those who can come here. Any other policy is at best naive and at worst is a threat to our very way of life. Article 15 of the Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to a nationality, and implicit in these discussions was the right to defend our nationality alongside the separate nationality of those we deem ourselves able to reject as refugees. Yet, I knew from my conversations with the friends I had made in Villawood Detention Centre and in the community where I live in Fairfield that many people don't have nationalities. It's something that's eluded them since birth, or they may have had one and it slipped away from them through forces beyond their control. Many have crossed numerous borders on their journeys to come here, the definitions that excluded them shifting slightly with each new line that was drawn on the map. Presently, perversely, given the dystopian nature of global border politics, I decided to focus on the question of borderlessness as my utopia, or the utopia that I shared with the people I was working with. I wanted to imagine utopia not so much as a place or a territory to defend, but as a journey or a way of relating to the other, which is defined by borderlessness. In reflecting upon the historical and contemporary struggles to cross borders that I was reading about and research for the exhibition, I decided to call my exhibition Salon Fluchthilfe. Now, Fluchthilfe is a word that I'd like you to all learn tonight. It's German, and I probably say it badly because I don't really speak German, and every time I said it in Vienna, the Germans would correct me, and so if there's anyone here who speaks German, feel free to correct me. But Fluchthilfe essentially means flight helper. And it's a term that actually has no English translation, so I left it in German. If you translate it into English, it would come out as people smuggler or human trafficker. In German, it has no derogatory connotation. It is a term that is honourable, and it arrives out of the particular history of Germany as a place that survived National Socialism and the Nazis. And people who helped people escape were heroes. eventually, not always at the time, but eventually. And it also comes out of the history of the division between East and West Germany, where people who helped those cross the border from East into West Germany were also considered heroes, and in fact often were paid. The Fluchthilfe, it was an honourable job and you could be paid for it, and it wasn't a crime, as it is turned into in today's context. So if we just think back a moment to the picture I started with, the duck rabbit, this was the second version of the duck rabbit, where no one is carrying anyone and the clothes are empty. And I guess what I'm asking us to think about is to break down that binary between who's a citizen and who's a refugee, because history changes, borders change, and these categories shift endlessly throughout time. And actually, incidentally, the Wittgensteins may have been the richest family in Europe, but eventually they ended up refugees from Vienna, and they fled because of National Socialism. And it was interesting for me when I called this the exhibition Salon Fluchthilfe. There was a UN conference on in Vienna at the same time on transnational crime, and there was a forum about Fluchthilfe. And someone gave a presentation from the Vienna Criminal Court, and he said during the Second World War, Fluchthilfe was an honourable activity, but it's changed now, and now it's to do with criminal. And that is the hype that basically is trying to criminalise an activity which is, I would still say, honourable, helping someone cross a border to escape persecution. The Fluchthilfe exhibition opened 2 weeks ago, and it was located within the politics of contemporary refugee struggles, but aimed to challenge the binary of refugee citizen that has framed this debate. The exhibition tried to elude any neat connection to a specific identity by encompassing both refugees and their supporters, who form an underground web of knowledge and support that allows bodies to move. Now, I'm not going to talk that much longer because Murtaza is here and he's got a lot more interesting things to talk to you about than I do. But just to explain, this was one of the works that we worked together on, and it's called In the Shade of the Wak Tree. And I've actually got one set of 3D glasses, and this image is 3D, so I'm going to pass them around. I'm going to check that it works. Ooh, yes, it works. Okay. So as we keep talking, hopefully a few of you at least will get to have the experience of this. Well, in our discussions in Villawood Detention Centre and with people in community detention, I was talking about the notion of utopia. And what came out of those discussions was the Wak, the land of Wak, which is a 13th century Islamic equivalent of utopia. It's a land at the edge of the known world, the non-place. And in that land there's a tree that grows human fruit that can speak of the future. So we decided this would be the framing device for our contribution to the exhibition. And this is a tiny detail of a 19-metre long drawing that Murtaza, Mona, Safta and myself were the principal artists involved in, and then there was about 15 other people who contributed small drawings, who, you know, some of them because they were in detention were unable to participate in the overall drawing. We could just get out, you know, one small drawing on a piece of paper or whatever to add to the picture. And the 3D element, I guess, is our future, where the flying creatures are in 3D and they speak of a borderlessness, where people do have the freedom to move. And we've reclaimed that as an honourable act, is to help someone to cross a border, and it's a basic need to cross, a basic right to be able to cross a border. So thank you. I'm now going to introduce Murtaza, who's one of the principal artists involved in this drawing, and he's going to talk about some of his experiences.
Thank you. Hello. Sorry. It's my first time talking on stage. My name is Murtaza, and I am I'm a Hazara refugee from Afghanistan. I came to Australia in 2010. So I was in detention 26 months, which was very hard. So I didn't have I've done any crime, so I was still in detention and punished very badly. So now I'm in community. So while I was in detention, I met Safda and Bilkis from Refugee Art Project, and they encouraged me to draw something because I had never drawn before. So I started in Villawood detention. Detention was very hard, so drawing helped me to relax my mind, and I was doing a lot, and my drawing was getting better every day. A lot of my drawings was from Villawood are in the collaborative drawings, which is in the Ethiopia project. So art is a good for refugees, especially in detention, because it helps them with their psychological problems, and it's a good skill to learn. And I'm grateful to Refugee Art Project for teaching me this skill. A couple of months ago, I published my one zine of my art, poetry, and my own words. So, sorry. Oh, thank you. And I'm glad lots of people liked it. I visited a couple of schools and spoke to the students about art and about refugees. Art shows expressions. You can tell your story, and you can show your thoughts and feelings. In the picture, you see our drawings of the what tree? Sorry, I forgot his name is a bit. One part of that I contributed in the boat, the boat's drawings. And I'm sorry to say I came by boat, and lots of people swear us outside because we are boat people. So, but I'm not surprised because they're showing people about their own behaviors against refugees, asylum seekers. So no one wants to leave their country, without any problem. Like if my country was peaceful, I didn't want to go another country to claim asylum. So that's not a crime, and I came by boat, and I'm a boat person. I'm telling everyone. So lots of people swearing. That's okay. I don't mind because they will learn one day with their own. One thing I want to say in the last, it's not my fault which I born in war country. Thank you so much.